Right, hi. So it has taken me a long time to do the second installment of the first video that I recorded around the township tax shop economy, or the informal sector as they call it. Now, I am going to present two solutions. They're not perfect. I haven't tested them out in the market. I haven't done any research. This is just basically me saying, here are two solutions. How do we feel about this? Is there a third, maybe a fourth solution that can come out of this? Maybe a combination of them would work better. I want that feedback, right? So you're very, very welcome to sort of speak to how you have thought about it and whether you see this being feasible. Having said that, we need to understand that the times of having a standalone tuck shop that is not plugged into some type of an ecosystem, those days are gone. Just on an international, or rather a global economic system, those days are gone. So it's not going to be possible to have Tombeni having a tuck shop that's just his and he decides where to buy. You're not going to be able to compete. So let's first ascertain that. Having said that, the only way to have a sort of mom and pop shop, or like a standalone store that is not plugged into any ecosystem, is if you have a niche. So imagine you are a grocery store, and you're a standalone grocery store. You are not affiliated with either Pick and Pay or Checkers. Then you need to be, and that tends to happen a lot in Joburg, and I'm assuming also the rest of the country, especially the nearer, like the cities. What you tend to find is that if you're not going to be a Pick and Pay or Checkers, or any of those retailers, then you need to find a niche. And what some of these stores have done is, hey, I do only international brands that are not usually stocked by the likes of Pick and Pay and etc. And then I might bring in some of those things that you might find in your normal retail stores, because so that when you are in the shop, you sort of pick everything up. But essentially, my differentiator is the fact that I supply the things that you would find either in the US only, or the UK, and the rest of Europe, right? Or alternatively, which we are also seeing, is like retail stores saying, hey, we do only Asian food, or hey, we only do Central African food. So unless you find a niche, you are the alternative is that you need to organize, right? And that is really what we saw the Somali Pakistani stores deciding to do. Is that we are going to organize. Your store, yes, is your store. However, in terms of supply, and you're plugged into a network of sorts, right? There might be a few things that you pick up from this local stores, but we will do your deliveries. Like when you look at them, that's essentially what is happening. They have organized and they're able to sort of buy in the quantities, the things that they buy, because we also know that there's also that side where they are making fake goods, right? So I'm talking about the side where they are selling the actual products that is manufactured by a registered and legal entity. So you just to reiterate, you have two options. You find a niche, or you organize. And the solution that I'm going to be presenting, the two solutions that I'm going to be presenting around organizing, okay? And if there's a niche that you are identifying, so a niche, I would like to add that it shouldn't really be possible to duplicate it at the scale that would make sense for a Pick and Pay or a Checkers or whatever the case might be, right? There has to be some element of it being either processed, or the value add at the site of the sale, right? So it shouldn't be very easy for it to be duplicated. So an example in this case, trying to think on my feet, but let's say that you are a store and you're selling shoes, right? and you are doing shoes for people who wear size 11 and above, right? If they want a sneaker, they come to you. If they want a shoe, they come to you. If they want a sole or an alteration done to their shoe, they come to you. That is not really something that would be duplicated at large scale. I know that there are people who wear really, really large shoe sizes. That is not something that like would be available at every, I'm going to take any store and say, like that would be available at every Edgar's, right? That store would need to then be niche, and the person who's dealing with that would know that like I have my 10 customers and they absolutely have to come to me if they're looking for a formal shoe or sneakers that are going to fit the size 14 feet, right? So those are the types of things that we're discussing. And so I'm asking you, Guti, if you can just sort of, as I am presenting the solution, start to imagine the types of niche industries that we can also produce. And then from that feedback, I'll then come up with something else. On that note, if you belong like in a community that we can roll this out in, please do let me know. And then we can organize something and have a chat separately. Okay, now over to the solutions. Okay, so we've got our 5 stages here, or 5 levels, normally these are 10. And what we're already seeing in the market is this one. However, there's an added layer, as you will see when I present to this. And then we're also seeing the one where you are coming into this facility and you're coming in with your own container. However, that poses a cross-contamination issue, among other challenges. So we are coming to the retailers and we are advocating for ourselves and lobbying and saying what we need is that we need the stock to be packaged in a manner that can be suitable for our community. So instead of having 700 mils of cooking oil, hey, can you please make it from quantities as small as 30 mils? And those are the quantities that I'll be able to make it possible for me to sell an egg instead of half a dozen, and etc. Right? So that it can be incorporated into the systems that will be rolled out into the communities and in our societies. Right? Okay, so that's at that level. That's where we need to be lobbying. It is possible. There are specialists who just study packaging. So this should be very easy to roll out, but there needs to be lobbying, there needs to be engagement with these companies so that this solution can actually be possible. Okay, so that solution, that's at level 1, and then or rather the first assignment that comes into the model that we'll be rolling out or advocating for. Then we've got these regional and provincial ports or warehouses whereby the stocking and the packet or the stocking will happen and the storage will happen, so that you do not, as a tuck shop owner, carry the risk of a bulk of stock, right? So you're able to come here and get 3 bunches of spinach without anybody having a hassle, right? You know that within 5 kilometers, I can go to our warehouse and I can get the quantities that I need of there, especially the quickly perishable products, right? Okay, and then we're going to move over to stage 4. And these stores, what we need is more than it being sort of hinting at the fact that it's a Pick n Pay. I need to actually be able to say, this is my store, so that if I'm affiliated with a Pick n Pay, I'm able to continue buying. But when I want to switch suppliers, maybe into a ShopRite Checkers, I'm also able to do that with relative ease, right? So that I'm not owned by a Pick n Pay. Just because I have started with you does not mean that I want to end with you, right? There might be things that you're not doing well, your systems might be crashing, those type of things. So it should be such that the store is mine, but it is affiliated with a Pick n Pay for purposes such as admin, licensing, compliance, things related to that, right? And so that becomes important. And also because it is my store, then I can do the interest-free credits. I can do the extra things that we do for members of our community. That is things like keeping keys, where people can hang out, because those are also places that we meet as a community, right? And we don't want those to be taken away, because they allow us to have peaceful jolo, they allow us to socialize and to catch up, you know, like, you know that when you're going to the tuck shop, you're going to get everything that is up to date. So you're going to still get all of that. And in essence, it is possible because the store is still owned by the local member who is affiliated with the multinational, who is able to switch suppliers when and should it be necessary. They're able to then also benefit from what is this, when you're able to buy in large quantities. So Pick n Pay is able to buy in very large quantities and can, in fact, they don't buy a lot of their stuff, but you're able to benefit from their pricing structure as a result. So when a person is looking at buying Koo beans at a retail store in town versus Lai Luxin, it's kind of like, well, you know, I'm essentially paying the same price. And then they will have the affiliation fees or whatever the case may be, as will be decided. Now, the other thing about this one is that she also have that government support layer. Now, this one becomes very important because I saw that the government is like, hey, we're going to be giving funding. And a lot of the times we are not struggling with buying stock, right? Our initial stock is not the issue. The where we start to have challenges, it's when it's time for compliance. Everybody needs to be trained, and that's costing about 1.5 per person who'll be working in the food store, right? And then they're talking about your zoning and your certificates that you need to put up. Some of us want to own halal stores. We need to be licensed accordingly. We need to be tested. We need to, you know, all of those things. And that is essentially where we are asking our government, because these things, they need us to consult with architects. They need us to go for training. They need layout plans and things like that. So it's, in essence, what I'm saying is that if we can organize quickly, we can say, hey guys, yes, we appreciate the money that you're talking about. But what we are finding is that there's red tape, or there's a backlog in terms of the applications, and that is where we would like you to sort of focus and support our our little businesses, right? So the government is able to say, hey, to everybody who owns a tuck shop, we'll be sending through an architect who will be helping you with drawing what your structure looks like for the purposes of licensing and zoning, and we'll be bringing in an inspector who will assist you with how to set up and do layout of the store so that it is suitable. We are bringing in we'll be bringing in trainers to every tuck shop so that you and your employees who are working at the tuck shop can get your food handling certificates, things like that, so that you'll be able to proceed. I really don't see much of a need for government to give us this money, and only for me to not be able to compete in the market, or only to be faced with red tape and licensing issues, therefore being unable to compete. So that is where I see our government participating. Further to that, I think that by them sort of popping in money, much appreciated. However, this is a marketplace, and so it should be sort of left to the market's devices for them to find a workable, like a price or whatever the case might be. If the government meddles too much in like an industry, it does sort of become it becomes not capitalism anymore. What are we doing? Are we dependent? What's going on? You know. Meanwhile, we want to be independent entrepreneurs who are able to stand on our own 2 feet. And this is a way that I think is feasible. I'm going to be moving on to the second solution, but you're very welcome in the comment section to sort of leave comments on this one or the latter one. I'll just ask you to just tell me which one are you referring to. Okay, so manje sesiku solution year 2 years 2, and then lapha stage 1, what you have is basically all the tuck shop owners sort of recognizing who they want to buy from, right? The manufacturers that we would like to buy from. Let's say, okay, chicken sifuna ukuyithenga, I don't know who's a supplier chicken. And then our fish, we want to buy it from I&J, and our cooking oil, we want this manufacturer, and those are the products that are relevant to the markets that we are supplying, or rather the markets that we are selling to. And then we want to partner with farmer A, B, C, who produce our, whether it's the spinach or whatever the case might be, esizokwazi ukuthi sithengise in our communities, or maybe it's beans, or things like that. And then so that's where you have at that level your manufacturers and your producers. You will notice that at stage 2 you have a cooperative or an NPC. And you have almost completely removed the likes of our retailers, whether that be Pick n Pay or Checkers and etc., right? Because that is where our NPC or cooperative is coming in. So our how is our cooperative made up, right? Tuck shop owners in a certain region, as Becky saying, Alex. Tuck shop owners, mhlambe base East Bank, base Stwetla, base Alexandra, like the entire Alex community. And then mhlambe tuck shop owners, nje ganjalo, they come together and they say, Tina sizofoma a region, or sizofoma let's call it a region. Let's say it's region E. NPC region E. And so what will then happen is tuck shops that are in this area, this entire area, you might even include Bramley Q, Lombardy East, those type of communities. Any tuck shop that is in this community then says, hey, yeah, okay, nami ngipakathi, I'm forming part of this NPC. And this NPC is going to be structured in a way that it has your full-time employees, the corporate, whether if it's a cooperative, it's going to be having admin people who'd be managing it, right? And they'll be responsible for the sourcing, for the contract. They'll also be responsible for assisting the individual tuck shops with compliance. So the tuck shops will then say, hey, or maybe an owner uzothi ngine tuck shop yami ilapha eLondon, ngifuna ukuthi ibe registered nayo yonke into. I-NPC yethu izothi, okay, fine, ngizonmanagela the whole process, getting the relevant people to come through the training yonke into. Makuyilanga le training sibiza all other tuck shop owners so that sizokwazi ukuthi si-attende i-training kanjalo, right? Okay, fine. And so that is what the NPC is going to be doing. They'll also be doing the buying and also the storage of the perishables, especially the perishables, right? So after some time, you sort of start to be able to measure, okay, fine, sizodinga 10 bunches of spinach per week for market yethu, and a tuck shop owner is able to then go to the NPC and purchase those products from there, and then be able to take them to their tuck shops, right? And the products that you are getting from the NPC are not marked up in that way, right? And that's really where you start to get the benefit from not working with an organization such as, whether it's Pick n Pay or ShopRite Checkers, right? Because your NPO or rather your NPC is able to secure the quantities that you need to stock in order to be able to get a good price from the producers and the manufacturers. However, they're not having an added on type of a margin, because tuck shop owners are already paying for membership, and the NPC is, for the members. Okay, that's fine. So and then we move on to, before we move on, we've got there, we have labeled it strategic bulk buying, right? Where you're able to say, okay, fine, sanibonani, Johnson and Johnson sicela ukuthenga, or maybe Nestle sicela ukuthenga ama chocolate wenu, these quantities for the next 3 years, and that helps you ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi negotiate the price as well. So you get those sort of benefits as well. You're able to do it in the agriculture sector, and a lot of you might already be quite familiar already with that type of a system. And then you pay for your products, and then as they get produced in the future, they sort of then start to give them to you. Okay. Then we move on to stage 3, and that's where the tuck shop owners are. We have the tuck shop owners who are paying the membership fees, and we also have the system where we have local little vehicles that are able to take our orders, and then bahambe bayokwazi ukuthi bathathe from our NPC, and then bring those products to us. And then what you are able to do as well is, as tuck shop owners, give a mandate to your NPC and say, hi, sicela ukuthi this year ni invest imali towards youth development products or programs. Sicela ukuthi ni invest imali that is coming from our membership, that is, in excess of whatever is in terms of the tuck shops. Sicela ukuthi ni mikise towards our infrastructure or whatever community welfare projects that we may have. Maybe sifuna uqala some type of an old age home, maybe sifuna uqala some type of a feeding scheme, those type of things. We are able to then run them through our NPC. And then our tuck shops are owned by our individuals, except that they are affiliated with their NPC there. And then we are able to continue to own the entire value chain up to the level of producer, accepting the level of the producer, as sort of our forefathers had intended, or rather as we were forced to do. And then that I see it as a way that can benefit our community. Some of the things that we would need to consider, of course, are things such as how many tuck shops should form an NPC in order for it to be able to be self-sustaining and be able to run all of the programs that we wanted to run. And then also what you would then need to then do is how exactly are the NPCs structured in terms of the region or the areas that they cover. So those nitty-gritties would still need to be unpacked in that way. Furthermore, what you would then need to factor in is ukuthi at the NPC level, we need to be engaging them and starting to say, hey guys, so we want to be able ukuthi sibe nama insurance for our tuck shops, for an example. So that's going to be something that's going to be important, and they'll be able to negotiate with the relevant organizations that will be able to give a product that will be tailored to our sort of market. The other thing that we would need to begin also engaging on is the issue around how much is the membership fee, right? Because we need to that's going to need a bit more calculation. But those are the two that I am seeing. Without getting into the details, I would like to hear your comments. I know that some others have given this more thought than I have. Like I said, I haven't tasted this in the market. However, what I have done is Uguti, I have, this was in 2025, 2024 as well, where I was engaging small scale farmers on the issue of how they would like to see their credit system being structured. And so that's sort of, I'm taking from that and implementing that into the tuck shop system as well, because small scale farmers also need to they need a line of credit. However, I got some other type of feedback, and that is leading me to say we actually need more organization and structure than we do the issue of farming of funding, because though funding is important, right? Without the correct structures, it kind of becomes pointless because you're not able to compete in the market. Having said that as well, I'd like to emphasize, Uguti, if we if you allow government to meddle too much in a marketplace, it then ceases to be a pure marketplace. It then becomes government overextending itself. That is why it is important for for business owners to say what they want and then to implement what they want, and then the policies will follow us. To some extent, the policies will follow us, yeah. Yes, thank you so much for giving me your time. Appreciate it. Have a lovely one.